Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet.
This review is brought to you in part by Ryder's Hobby Shops, where the fun begins. Stop in to one of Ryder's 2 convenient Michigan locations where you'll find a full range of the latest hobby products, supplies, parts, tools, and paint. The base kit for this review is the 1980 Dodge Ram D-50 in Coca-Cola livery pickup truck. It's a 125 scale kit from AMT number 1306. It's about an intermediate level kit, and a person with a few models under their belt could build the kit out of stock form, but we're not going to do that. We're going to turn this into a kit bashing project. Like was done back in the 60s, we'll just have some fun with using spare parts and make a cool model like the old 3-in-1 kits. And in this review, we won't be using the instructions, although they are at the end for reference. We'll just be using parts from the parts box, and most of the smaller parts in the kit will be going into our parts box. We're going to chop the top, give it a big rake, some fat tires, and a mid-engine. But your parts will be different, so your model will come out differently. When you're done, the final dimensions are still about 7.5 inches long, 3 inches wide, and 2.25 inches high. Let's have some fun. Here are the contents of the kit. As you can see, it's been nicely done. It's been kept up well, and there are 4 cases of Coke bottles in there too. Please be sure, if you're building the models or out of stock or as a kit bash, use the manufacturer's safety and use guidelines for any of the products that you see or hear used in the review. Here are your wheel choices from the kit. And they're very nice, but we won't be using these as they're 6-lug, and we'll probably use some 5 lugs. In fact, I found some parts from the 32 Ford Phaeton kit that AMT put out a while back to use, because in general, customs like this would have the suspension swapped out. And here you see the first mod that I made. I used the wheel backs from the kit, but I had to open them up so that they would fit onto the rear hubs. Next, I had to remove some cross members from the frame to accommodate the motor and suspensions. You can see them hashed out here in red. I found a piece like this that would suffice as a cross member to accommodate the engine where it was going to be placed into the frame. The front suspension, because you can't really see it, will be mostly hidden. And we're going to use that right straight out of the kit box, so you can go ahead and assemble that too. I had to find a larger radiator and cooling system for the V8 that I was going to replace the inline 4-cylinder engine with that came in the kit. Now we're going to do some real modifications to an MPC 1/20th scale Corvette kit rear suspension, and we'll modify that. And all of the areas that are in red get trimmed away and discarded. And then the green cross member is glued to the top of the transaxle from the AMT secret agent car of the 60s, and that gets attached to the frame rails. The yellow area then is glued to the underside of the transaxle and trimmed to fit the trailing arms shown in the light blue along with the hubs. The dark blue part then is the half shafts, and it gets attached to the transaxles through the trailing arms. I used some coil-over shocks and attached those to the upper cross members, shown here with the red arrows, to the trailing arms. And you see the rear suspension in place. The engine is shown, and that is a big block Chevy with fuel injection. Don't know where that came from, but they're pretty plentiful. It was already built, so there's no assembly pictures for that. Just use one that you've got and put it into play. Here is a view of the setup from the underside. And you can see the transaxle and suspension in place there. The headers were modified to be as high as possible so that piped they would exit above the half shafts and still have some clearance. The mufflers are from an unknown source, and the headers are from the parts box, but they're pretty standard stuff. Now the tires that you see mounted here actually came out of the kit. They're actually really wide for the kit's tires, so they work just perfectly here under the flares. And we'll be using those, and they're mounted here to the rear transaxle on the backing plates we showed you earlier. And so as you can see here from this angle of the underside, we're getting the rolling chassis put together, and this is a setup that I used. Yours will be different, but just use your imagination and some knowledge of automotive design, and you can put together something like this yourself. I found some internet photos of the dash and scaled them down, printed them out, and used those for the dash instruments and some of the decoration there that is applied to the console and the dash. And here is the stock bed and tailgate, etc. Parts, from the original kit. Now you can see that I had cut out the bed there mostly to accommodate the installation and setup for the engine. Fitting right into our plans are some custom fender flares that are included in this kit, probably from a different version, but we're going to use them along with some side body flares. Now you see the red mark there. We're going to cut these because the ones for the body and the ones for the bed should not be connected. As you see here, we've started to attach the fender flares. Now next, I trimmed the roof away to build a roadster pickup, like the ones that were popular on modified small trucks back in the 80s and 90s, and I chopped the windshield. Then I marked the windshield, as you see here, for cutting that into position. Now, quite a few of these things just involve test fitting and sanding and cutting and trimming and test fitting over and over and over. So here is the modified part and roof as you see in final form. Instead of one tiny little piece at a time, I thought this would be just as instructive, but you can see where it was chopped and cut and the windshield was fitted. Here you see the underhood accessories in the engine bay, and I used a Volkswagen Beetle gas tank from my parts box, and as you can see, it's been modified along with the larger radiator to accommodate the V8 engine and a fuel tank up front. And with that last modification up front, our kit bashing project is done. And here are all the parts that I didn't use from the kit, but someday I'm sure that they'll be used to kit bash a different model. So there you have it. And so here you see the completed kit. And it was shot with one-shot gold metallic over a bluish hue. And then after the body was sprayed, I fogged one-shot gold underneath the lower part of the body, and that was kind of a popular touch back in the 80s and 90s. A few, decals from the parts box, and I've got myself a custom, one-of-a-kind vehicle that could have been on the show and tell market back then, but will look really good on my shelf now. And so here's the idea. Just get some parts and start looking to see how they might all fit together and have yourself some fun with something that's a little different. That's what this review is all about. Please, don't let those parts boxes just keep getting filled up. Use them. Make something neat, and you'll be surprised what you'll come up with. Well, we hope you liked this foray into model kit bashing, and if you don't want to miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking on the icon on the lower right of any of our reviews, or you can find us on Facebook or our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks.